The acts and omissions complained of by the applicant appear to be capable of falling within the provisions of the Genocide Convention. In the court's view, at least some of the acts and omissions alleged by South Africa to have been committed by Israel in Gaza appear to be capable of falling within the provisions of the Convention. In light of the following, the court concludes that, prima facie, it has jurisdiction pursuant to Article 9 of the Convention to entertain the case. Given this conclusion, the court considers that it cannot accede to Israel's request that the case be removed from the general list.
Something is better than nothing. The international criminal courts, who were answering the statement by South Africa, the charge that Israel was committing acts of genocide in Gaza, were called today, and thus the international criminal courts responded with a half-hearted response. Like I said, at least something is better than nothing. I didn't think they were going to go this far. Per the Times of Israel, in its decision, the Hague Court finds there is plausibility to South Africa's claim that the rights of Palestinians not be subjected to genocide must be urgently protected. Now, there are four statutes called the Rome Statutes, four laws of the international criminal courts that could charge countries or persons, heads of state, with in terms of criminality, and that is war crimes, genocide, crimes of aggression, crimes against humanity. Right? The International Criminal Court of Justice ruled on Friday that at least some of Israel's actions, the death toll is now over 26,000, 1.7 million displaced. I would say that that's an act of genocide. International Criminal Court ruled on Friday that at least some of Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip during the ongoing war against Hamas could fall within the terms of the Genocide Convention, and said it must therefore take a series of preventive measures. Decision made 15-2 that there is plausibility to South Africa. Who the hell ruled against? There's plausibility to South Africa's claims that Palestinians require protection from genocide. It's damaging to Israel. But Netanyahu is not there for the long run. He served his purpose. The Shin Bet, the domestic agency, the Israeli IDF, warning for months that Hamas were building tunnels along the Jericho southern wall. And it was all ignored by their superiors. The attack takes place. They had the intelligence that could have stopped this, but they didn't. However, the court did not take action most desired by South Africa for feared by Israel, that of ordering an immediate unilateral ceasefire, which would have stymied the war effort, and indicated that the court believes genocide is actively taking place. So in other words, what the International Criminal Court did is, well, you know, a genocide did take place, but isn't currently. Because ceasefire is what everybody wants. Everybody across the board. Except the Israeli government. The Israeli government doesn't want a ceasefire because they want to continue pushing out the Palestinians, not out of Gaza, but also out of the West Bank. They want gone. They want them all out of the country. So they already set up plans for Egypt to take in the Palestinians from the West Bank, and for Jordan and Lebanon to take the Palestinians from West Bank. From Gaza to Egypt, West Bank to Jordan. Because Israel wants an Israeli-only state. Now, of course, Netanyahu's lying when he says, well, you know, we're just cleaning the area west of Hamas. No, they're cleaning out of the Palestinians. And you take a look at, you know, his settlers that are in the war cabinet, they agree, you know, of course they agree. They want West Bank Israeli. You know, you have Israeli businessmen already buying up properties there. American Israeli businessmen buying properties in West Bank already. I mean, in Gaza. Already. Settlers in the West Bank, they're out there just shooting people. That's Ben Gvir, finance minister. That's what they're about. That's the Kahana group. The late Rabbi Meir Kahana, who also once called for a cleansing of the country of Israel from Arabs completely. We're talking about 1990, 91, right? He's killed in 90. Excuse me. And what happens just, 3 years later, the massacre at the Cave of Patriarchs by Baruch Goldstein. And they still worship at the graves of these people. That's the settlers for you. Israeli settlers. No different than the Islamic State in Levant. No different. They believe in a caliphate, but a caliphate for who? For them. Crucially, the court did not use the word desist in its decision, which would have indicated it believed genocide was actively taking place. Then his claiming, this is why I'm not raising the success flag here. This is a half-hearted decision by the international courts. But yeah, all right, they admit that genocide did take, well, it's not taking place now. What stopped it? The numbers keep going up. That means, a genocide. And not only that, forced displacement is also taking place, but that wasn't a charge in the court, right? The order repeated on several occasions the decision was not a determination on the merits of South Africa's allegations of genocide. And the provisional measures do not indicate how the International Criminal Justice might rule in the far lengthier process on the case. Although this would take the sting out of the orders against Israel, the court's acceptance that there is plausibility to some of South Africa's claims may cause reputational and diplomatic damage to Israel. Netanyahu doesn't care. Look, the long run is this. Netanyahu is going to take the fall for this, but that's all right, because the goal was to get the Palestinians out of Gaza West Bank. He's going to be remembered for that. Now, whoever's taking his place will be someone who's not pretty much a polarizing figure. But it's what's under Netanyahu in the Likud party that should make you fear for the future, because these people claim that if they can't have Israel, nobody can have a world. And that's the Samson option. How many nukes does Israel have? You trust Israel with nukes? Do you really? For you people out there say, well, Iran is trying to obtain a nuclear weapon. Israel has probably over 80 nuclear weapons. 80. But we're surrounded by enemies. You made those enemies with your disastrous domestic policy against Palestinians, and also using the United States and their coalition partners to enact your draconian foreign policy. You don't think all this has a ripple effect? Why do you think tens of thousands took to the streets in December of 2022 against the Netanyahu government? They knew. Here's a guy who's facing 3 charges of corruption, and he's still the prime minister. How the fuck did that happen? Responding to the ruling, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the court's decision not to grant the order for Israel to declare an immediate ceasefire meant that it had rejected South Africa's claim that there is no right to self-defense against October 7th atrocities committed by Hamas, which sparked the current war. The vile attempt to deny Israel this fundamental right, and by the way, you can't have the fundamental right for defense because you're the oppressor. You're the attacker. You're the one who created the prison system for Gaza and West Bank. You're the one who continually violates international law. You're the one who continually violates human rights laws of your own citizens. Palestinians are your own citizens. But you wouldn't even know it. You would think that these people are prisoners. The vile attempt to deny Israel this fundamental right is blatant discrimination against the Jewish state and is justly rejected, stated Netanyahu after the ruling, while insisting the charge of genocide against Israel was not only false, it's outrageous, and that decent people everywhere should reject it. South Africa, meanwhile, hailed the decision, calling it a decisive victory for the international rule of law and a significant milestone in the search for justice for the Palestinian people. How can they call it a justice when they don't admit that a genocide is taking place currently? Along with the orders to take all measures within its power to prevent genocide against Palestinians, the International Criminal Justice specifically ordered Israel to ensure that the IDF does not carry out acts of genocide, including to prevent the killing or injuring of Gazans, prevent conditions that would lead to such harm, and ensure the avoidance of conditions intended to prevent births among Gazans, 15 votes to 2. It is further ordered that the state prevent and punish incitement to genocide against Palestinians, 16-1. Who the fuck would vote against that? Right? Who would vote against the Israeli state to prevent and who would order the International Criminal Courts to punish people for incitement to genocide? Well, I want to know who that one person is. Take urgent measures to alleviate the adverse humanitarian situation in Gaza, 16-1. Well, whoever this one person is a piece of shit and shouldn't be on the International Criminal Courts. Prevent the destruction of evidence relating to allegations of acts of genocide, and 2 people voted against that. That means that you could actually destroy evidence for genocide. 2 people on this court actually said and thought the destruction of evidence in this case is warranted when it comes to genocide. Or they said, well, there's no genocide taking place. Either way, what the fuck are they doing? Who are they? And report back to court in 1 month on the issues laid out in the order. The court decided that the numerous and highly inflammatory comments made by some senior Israeli officials, which could be interpreted as an endorsement of deliberately hold on here. Damn Ed. The court decided that the numerous and highly inflammatory comments made by some senior Israeli officials, which could be interpreted as an endorsement of deliberately harming civilians, gave plausibility to South Africa's allegation that Israel's genocidal intent against Palestinians in Gaza in the current conflict. Reading out the court order, President of the ICJ, Judge Joan Donoghue, specifically cited comments by Defense Minister Joan Gallant, then Energy Minister Israel Katz, and President Isaac Herzog that have raised concerns among judges of the court, because they'll come right out and say it. They'll come right out and say, hey, listen, we're cleansing the nation of Arabs, of terrorists, that they would say. They wouldn't say Arabs, they wouldn't say Palestinians. We're cleaning the area of terrorists. In other words, they see Arabs as terrorists. Meanwhile, they're the ones terrorizing. They're the ones terrorizing. The issue of intent is crucial to demonstrating that genocide may be underway. The court essentially ignored the argument of the Israeli defense team that the comments of senior officials outside of the decision-making framework of the Security Cabinet were irrelevant to determining Israel policy regarding the prosecution's war. Well, it's not irrelevant because they may not be in the war cabinet, but they're in the Israeli government. So it is relevant. War cabinet was created after the conflict. Judge Aaron Barak, the ad hoc judge appointed by Israel to the ICJ bench, as is the right of every party to proceedings, voted against the order that Israel must take steps to prevent genocide. But all right, there's your one guy. This is the one guy. This guy. Right? Oh, no wonder. Look at this guy, 87 years old. Let's take a look at this guy. Right? This is the one guy who says a genocide is likely to take place and you could destroy evidence leading to a genocide in the Israeli cause. And of course, the Israeli flag in the back, because this guy was the former president of, well, he's a president of the Supreme Court of Israel, former from 1996 for 10 years. No wonder. An Israeli lawyer who served as president of the Supreme Court from 1995 to 2006. Having survived the Holocaust, he and his family later immigrated to mandatory Palestine. Well, that's interesting. Survives the Holocaust, but yet agrees to one. Aaron Barak, the ad hoc judge appointed by Israel to the ICJ, voted against the order that Israel must take steps to prevent genocide, which is the most disgusting thing. Because in other words, for him, and you saw that mug, yeah, go ahead, keep killing these people. But voted in favor of the order that Israel must take steps against incitement to genocide. Look, don't talk about it, but do it. What the fuck's the difference? These people are vile scum. I'm talking about not the Jews, you anti-Semites, right? You pro-Zionists and settlers. Fuck you. You know where I'm coming from. You know, it's amazing, right? Here's a guy who basically is voting in favor for the courts to decide that incitement against genocide is wrong, but committing acts of genocide isn't happening, or it can allow it to happen because Israel has a right to defend himself, which is ridiculous. He's overwhelmingly voted against. Why? Because he is a former Israeli lawyer and parliament member, a former judge for 11 years, Supreme Court. It's like having somebody who's affiliated with a circle of people that are committing a crime. He's friends with them. He didn't commit the crime. He's friends with them. All of a sudden, these people are on, they're arrested and they're brought to a court of law. And this person who's affiliated with them can serve as a jury member. Now, you don't think that's biased? Of course, he's going to, find them innocent. Donahue started out by noting that the October 7th atrocity perpetrated by Hamas, which South Africa in its arguments never did, noted that the terror group killed over 1,200 Israelis. Now, they have 250 hostages. Look, this is a tragedy. 1,200 people were killed. Just like 2,997 people were killed on September 11th. Similarities is this. Oh, this is Israel's 9/11. Yeah, I agree. Because like Israel, the United States intelligence services had information pertaining to a number of these people that committed the 9/11 attacks were flying at flight schools that were inside the United States, living openly. And if they acted on that information, could have prevented 9/11, right? Israel, for months prior to the attacks by Hamas on October 7th, had information from their own IDF soldiers at the Jericho Wall, which basically told them, hey, listen, they're building tunnels. There's a bunch of trucks out here, and they were ignored. And the reason is simple. Come on. All right. There's no evidence for this now. I'm speculating, but I mean, this is, it's not about a coincidence. They allowed these attacks to happen to benefit from after the attacks. The United States went to war with who? Two countries had nothing to do with 9/11, including one war that was straight up illegal, Iraq. They went to war in Afghanistan. Later on, it was Syria and Libya and Pakistan, which had nothing to do. 9/11 again. Israel, they allow the attacks. Now we could destroy all of Gaza, get rid of all the Arabs, and even go to West Bank and say, hey, Hamas is there too. Is that a crackpot theory at this point? Does anybody believe that? Because that's exactly what's happening. Israel then launched an attack which is causing massive civilian casualties and doing extensive ongoing damage to civilian infrastructure and has displaced the vast majority of Palestinians in Gaza, she said. The court is acutely aware of the extent of the human tragedy in the region, is deeply concerned by ongoing suffering in Gaza, she continued. In the court's view, at least some of the acts and omissions committed by Israel in Gaza appear to be capable of falling within the provisions of the Genocide Convention. In light of the following, the court concludes it has prima facie jurisdiction to entertain the case on the basis of Article 9 of the Genocide Convention, intoned Donahue while reading out the court order. The court cannot accede to Israel's request that it not entertain the application. Donahue read out several statements by officials from the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and others describing how thousands of women, children, and civilians have been killed and injured during the war. The dire humanitarian situation in Gaza and the severe physical, psychological effect the hostilities have on the civilian population, in particular children. After reading out the comments by Gallant, Kurtz, and Herzog, she added, the aforementioned facts and circumstances are sufficient to conclude that at least some of the rights claimed by South Africa and for which it is seeking protection are plausible. This is the case with respect to the right of Palestinians in Gaza to be protected from acts of genocide and related prohibited acts identified in Article 3 of the Genocide Convention, and the rights of South Africa to seek Israel's compliance with the latter's obligation under the convention. You know, I did a whole video on the Rome statutes relating to the latest news of Israel-Palestine. And you should watch that one, because I go into in depth about what outlines genocide and whatnot. At the conclusion of the reading of the order, Donahue also included a statement calling for the immediate unconditional release of the hostages currently being held in captivity by Hamas in Gaza. Now, that's the end of the article. But that's not going to come unless there's a ceasefire. Why would Hamas give up the hostages when Israel's still conducting war crimes? Right? Why would they do that? Because once the hostages are released, they're going to destroy all the Palestinians. Because what's stopping them now? This court order? No, it's not. And nobody else has got the guts like South Africa does. The United States is led by a nation of cowards. The United States is sold out to Israel, the government. Because we got pimps that you vote for. I don't vote. You vote for. Stop voting. Or vote for a third party at least. That isn't upholded to the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, which is an Israeli Zionist think tank that resides in the United States. What the fuck? How is a foreign entity residing inside the United States making decisions that affect our foreign policy? How's that even happen? Because the Department of Justice doesn't got the guts to label them a foreign entity like they were going to in the 1950s? All right, guys, that's the latest video. All right. Hey, something is better than nothing, right? That's the name of the headline of this video. Something is better than nothing. Listen, any more updates, important updates, of course, you'll be the first to hear it. Unbiased, unprejudicial, and as is. See you guys in the next video. Thanks.